Beneath the streets of Stormwind City, hidden below the busy trade district, taverns, and crowded marketplaces, lies a place most citizens try to forget ever existed. The Stockades, a prison built deep underground to contain the kingdom's most violent criminals, murderers, bandits, assassins, traitors. Anyone too dangerous to remain above the surface was sent here. Locked behind iron bars beneath the city itself. At first, the stockades were tightly controlled by Stormwind guards. Torches lit the halls. Patrols marched the corridors. Order was maintained. But over time, something changed. The prison began to rot from the inside. Riots erupted deep within the lower cells. Criminal gangs formed alliances underground. Guards disappeared into the darkness. Some prisoners escaped their cells entirely and claimed sections of the prison for themselves. And slowly, the stockades stopped being a prison. It became a war zone beneath Stormwind. For many early World of Warcraft players, entering the stockades for the first time felt genuinely unsettling. The moment you descended the wooden ramps into the prison halls, everything changed. The light grew dim. The air felt cold. Cobwebs stretched across the ceilings. Torches flickered against wet stone walls. The deeper you traveled, the less safe the dungeon felt. Even though Stormwind City was directly above you, it felt impossibly far away. Every hallway carried the sound of chains, footsteps, and distant growls echoing through the tunnels. And then came the prisoners. Petty criminals huddled against the walls, violent thugs roaming the corridors, escapees waiting in the darkness. The guards no longer controlled the prison. They were surviving inside it. But the greatest threat lurking beneath Stormwind was not human. The Riverpaw Gnolls had invaded the prison. Savage hyena-like creatures from Elwyn Forest. Violent, cruel, unpredictable. Many players had already encountered them outside the city walls during early leveling. But inside the stockades, they felt different. More dangerous. Trapped in narrow corridors and dark prison chambers, every encounter became chaotic. Gnolls ambushed guards. Prisoners fought for scraps of survival. Bodies littered the stone floors. And leading them was one of the most iconic enemies in all of classic World of Warcraft, Hogger. Even today, veteran players still remember that name instantly. For new Alliance players in the early days of WoW, Hogger was terrifying, a towering Gnoll warlord with brutal strength and a reputation that spread across Elwyn Forest. Many players died trying to fight him for the very first time, and deep inside the stockades, his presence turned the prison into complete madness. But the corruption beneath Stormwind didn't stop with criminals and gnolls. As if the prison itself had become cursed, something else began emerging from the darkness. Elementals, living fire, living stone, creatures that should never have existed beneath the city walls. Flames burned across the prison floor. Heat filled the corridors. Stone creatures shook the halls with every step. The dungeon no longer felt like a prison. It felt haunted. For many players, this dungeon became unforgettable, not because of mechanics, but because of atmosphere. The stockades felt alive, not heroic, not glorious, just dark. A prison collapsing beneath one of the greatest cities in Azeroth, while the world above continued as if nothing was happening. That feeling stayed with people. The torchlight, the shadows, the distant growls, the chains hanging from the ceilings, the endless stone corridors. For many of us, the stockades were our first real taste of danger in WoW. And years later, walking these halls again still feels strangely familiar, like returning to a forgotten nightmare beneath Stormwind City.